If you are under 30 right now, there is a financial window that shuts for good on your 30th birthday. Miss that window, and building wealth becomes dramatically harder. Most people never miss it because nobody ever tells them it exists. I am talking about the most important decade for building wealth, because the choices you make before 30 can decide whether you end up rich or broke for the rest of your life. Two people can earn the exact same paycheck at 30, work the same job, live in the same city, and still end up with completely different futures. One retires a millionaire while the other works until the day they die. That gap is not luck, it is not inheritance, and it is not some hidden investment trick. It comes down to 5 very specific choices made before age 30 that most people get totally wrong. My name is Alicia, and I spend way too much time studying why some people build real wealth while others with the exact same income stay stuck forever. If you are in your 20s or early 30s, and you want to understand what really separates the people who retire early from the people who work until 70, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this helps you out. Here is something nobody explains about your 20s. Every money decision you make during this decade gets amplified by time in a way that is almost impossible to fully understand until you see the numbers. $1 invested at 25 is worth about 7 times more at retirement than $1 invested at 35, even though that is only a 10-year difference. That is not a mistake. The same dollar, invested 10 years earlier, becomes 7 times more powerful because of compound growth. That is why two people making the same salary can end up in completely different financial worlds based only on what they did before turning 30. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. Meet James and Chris. They are both 30 years old. They both make $65,000 a year, working for the same company. They both live in the same city and pay similar rent. From the outside, their lives look almost identical. But here is what you do not see. James has a net worth of negative $20,000. He has $35,000 in student loans, $10,000 in credit card debt, and $5,000 in savings. Chris has a net worth of $180,000. He has $100,000 in retirement accounts, $60,000 in a brokerage account, $30,000 in an emergency fund, and $10,000 in debt he is paying off strategically. Same age, same salary, same city. One is broke and stressed about money all the time. The other is on track to retire at 50 and has options that James cannot even imagine. So what made the difference? 5 choices Chris made in his 20s that James never made. And here is the most important part. None of those choices required Chris to earn more money, have rich parents, or hit some lucky investment. They were all things James could have done too. He simply made different choices that seemed normal at the time, but turned into financial damage over time. Let us start with the first choice that separates rich from broke at 30, what you do with your first real paycheck. When James graduated college and got his first job at 23 making $45,000 a year, he finally felt like he had real money for the first time in his life. He had been broke all through college, eating ramen and worrying about every single purchase. Now he had a steady paycheck, and his brain told him he earned the right to enjoy it. So he got his own apartment instead of roommates because he was an adult now, and adults live alone. He bought a new car because his old college car felt embarrassing, and he needed something reliable for work. He started eating out constantly because he was too tired after work to cook. Within 6 months, his lifestyle had expanded until it ate his entire paycheck. Chris graduated the same year, got a similar job making $43,000, and made a completely different decision. He kept living like a broke college student even though he was no longer broke. He shared a cheap apartment with 3 roommates. He kept driving his paid-off college car even though it was nothing impressive. He meal prepped every Sunday and brought lunch to work daily. His friends thought he was being cheap or too cautious. But what Chris was really doing was creating a gap between his income and his expenses, and he sent that gap straight into investments before he had a chance to spend it. That is the first major decision, refusing lifestyle inflation when you land your first real job. James thought the point of making money was to finally live better. Chris understood that the point of making money in your 20s is to invest as much as possible, while time still gives compound growth room to work. By age 30, this one difference had created a $60,000 gap in their net worth. James had spent that money on rent, car payments, and restaurants he barely remembers. Chris had invested it, and now that money was working for him in the stock market. The second decision that separates rich from broke at 30 is how you handle debt, especially student loans. James and Chris both graduated with about $35,000 in student loan debt. They both had standard 10-year repayment plans, but they handled them very differently. James looked at his monthly payment of $350 and thought, okay, I can manage that. I will just pay the minimum and focus on enjoying life. He paid his $350 every month like clockwork, feeling responsible because he never missed a payment, while also spending freely on everything else because he figured he was young and should enjoy his 20s. Chris looked at the exact same debt and treated it like an emergency, not because $350 a month was impossible, but because he understood debt is the opposite of compound growth. Instead of his money growing for him, he was paying interest to someone else. So Chris attacked his student loans aggressively. He kept living in that cheap apartment with roommates, kept his spending low, and threw every extra dollar at the loans. Some months he paid $1,000, some months $1,500. By age 27, Chris was completely debt-free. James, still making minimum payments, still has years left and has already paid thousands in interest that Chris avoided by paying early. Here is why this matters even more than the actual dollar amount. Being debt-free at 27 meant Chris could send that entire debt payment straight into investing. For the last 3 years, Chris has been investing an extra $1,000 to $1,500 per month that James is still sending to his lender. That is 36 months of compound growth James lost because he thought minimum payments were enough. By age 30, this one choice alone created a $40,000 difference in their net worth. The third decision is about retirement accounts, and this is where a lot of people in their 20s quietly wreck their future without realizing it. When James started his first job, HR walked him through the benefits package, including the 401k. The company offered a 3% match, which meant if James contributed 3% of his salary, the company would also put in 3%. Free money. James listened to the presentation, got overwhelmed by all the investment options he did not understand, and decided he would deal with it later. Later became next year. Next year became maybe when I get my next raise. By the time James finally enrolled in his 401k at age 28, he had missed 5 years of contributions and 5 years of free money from his employer. Chris got the same presentation from the same HR person. He also did not understand the investment options. But instead of letting that stop him, Chris did something simple. He enrolled right away at a 6% contribution rate, got the full 3% match from his employer, and put everything into a target date retirement fund because that is what the HR person recommended for people who do not know what they are doing. Was it the perfect investment strategy? Probably not, but it was much better than doing nothing. From age 23 to 30, Chris contributed 6% of his salary, while his employer added 3%. That means 9% of his income went into retirement accounts, grew tax-deferred, and compounded for 7 years before James even started. Here is the math that should scare anyone in their 20s who is not contributing to a 401k. Chris put in about $27,000 of his own money over those 7 years, received around $13,000 in employer match, and with market growth now, has about $55,000 in his retirement account by age 30. James contributed nothing, received nothing, and has nothing. That is a $55,000 gap. But the real damage is much bigger than that because Chris's $55,000 still has about 35 more years to grow before retirement. With average returns, that could become more than $500,000 by the time Chris is 65. James will never catch up to that, no matter how much he contributes later, because he cannot buy back time. The fourth decision that creates the rich versus broke divide at 30 is how you handle windfalls. Over the course of your 20s, you will probably get some unexpected money. Tax refunds. Bonuses, birthday gifts, maybe a small inheritance from a grandparent, maybe you sell things you do not need anymore. These windfalls may only be a few $100s or a few thousand, but over a decade they add up. The real question is, what do you do with them? James treated every windfall like fun money. Got a $2,000 tax refund? That is vacation money. Got a $1,000 bonus at work. Time to upgrade the TV. Got $500 for his birthday, new clothes and a nice dinner out. Over 10 years, James probably received $30,000 to $40,000 in different windfalls, and he spent all of it on things he can no longer remember, and that added zero long-term value to his life. Chris handled windfalls differently. Every time unexpected money came in, he followed one rule. At least 75% goes straight to investments or debt payoff. A tax refund of $2,000, $1,500 into his brokerage account, $500 for something fun. A bonus at work, 75% to student loans, 25% to enjoy. Birthday money, straight to a Roth IRA. This was not about being miserable or never enjoying money. Chris still used 25% for fun, but by automatically routing the majority of windfalls toward wealth building, Chris added another $30,000 to his net worth over his 20s that James spent on things he has already forgot. The fifth and final decision that separates rich from broke at 30 is how you think about your car. This may sound small because a car is just transportation, right? Wrong. For most people in their 20s and 30s, their car payment is one of their biggest expenses, and it is one of the expenses that destroys more wealth than almost anything else. James has had 3 cars in his 20s. At 23, he bought a new car for $28,000 because he wanted something reliable and impressive. At 26, he traded it in and upgraded to a $35,000 car because he got a raise and felt like he deserved it. At 29, he traded that in for a $40,000 SUV because maybe he would start a family someday and need the space. Every one of those cars was financed. Every one had a payment between $400 and $600 per month. Every one lost 20 to 30% of its value the second he drove it off the lot. Over his 20s, James spent around $60,000 on car payments, insurance, and maintenance for vehicles that are now maybe worth $20,000 if he is lucky. He spent $60,000 to own $20,000 worth of depreciating assets. Chris bought one car in his 20s. At 23, he bought a reliable used Honda for $8,000 cash. It was not flashy, it was not impressive, it was 8 years old when he bought it, but it was reliable and already paid off. He drove that car for 7 years, spending maybe $3,000 on maintenance during that whole time. At 30, it is still worth about $4,000. So Chris spent $11,000 on transportation over his 20s and still has an asset worth $4,000. James spent $60,000 and has assets worth $20,000. That is a $36,000 difference in net worth from one decision, buying sensible used cars instead of financing new ones. But it is actually worse than a $36,000 difference because remember, Chris was investing the money he saved on car payments. That $400 to $600 per month James was sending to a car loan, Chris was investing it. Over 7 years, that turns into another $50,000 to $70,000 in Chris's investment accounts. So the total difference from the car decision is closer to $100,000. $100,000 of net worth difference from simply driving a less impressive car during your 20s. Now let us add up the total effect of these 5 decisions. The lifestyle inflation decision created a $60,000 gap. The student loan decision created a $40,000 gap. The retirement account decision created a $55,000 gap. The windfall decision created a $30,000 gap. The car decision created a $100,000 gap. That is $285,000 of net worth difference between James and Chris at age 30, even though they had the same salary. $285,000 came from 5 choices that James thought were sensible at the time, but compounded into a financial disaster. Here is what makes this even more painful. These gaps do not stay the same size, they grow. Chris's $180,000 net worth at age 30 will keep compounding. If he keeps saving at the same rate and earns average market returns, he will likely be a millionaire by 45. James's negative $20,000 net worth means he is already starting behind. Even if he suddenly gets serious at 30 and starts doing everything right, he will never fully catch up to Chris because Chris already has time on his side. The choices James made in his 20s did not just cost him money in his 20s. They cost him wealth for the rest of his life. Let us talk about what happens next for both of them, because this is where the difference becomes even clearer. Chris at 30 has options. He could take a lower-paying job if it offered better work-life balance because his investments are growing quietly in the background. He could take 6 months off to travel because he has a cushion. He could start a business because he is not desperate for every paycheck. He could negotiate aggressively for raises because he is not scared of losing his job. His wealth gives him flexibility and freedom that James does not have. James at 30 is stuck. He cannot afford to take risks because he is living paycheck to paycheck even with a decent salary. He cannot negotiate too hard because he needs this job to make his debt payments. He cannot take time off because he has no savings. He cannot chase opportunities that may pay off later because he needs money now. Every choice he makes is driven by financial stress, even though he makes $65,000 a year. That is what quietly broke looks like. Decent income, no options, constant anxiety about money. And the hardest part is this: the gap between them keeps growing even if they earn the same salary for the rest of their lives. Chris's investments keep producing returns. His net worth keeps compounding. Every year his money makes more money without him doing anything. James is starting from negative $20,000. Even if he starts investing now, the first few years are just about climbing back to zero. He is running the same race as Chris but starting 50 yards behind. And Chris is still running too, so the gap never closes. If you are reading this in your 20s and realizing you look more like James than Chris, I need you to understand something. You still have time, but not a lot. Every month you wait to make these changes is a month of compound growth you will never get back. Every year you spend living at your maximum instead of below your means is a year that could have gone toward building wealth. You are not doomed, but you need to move now. Not next month, not after you pay off this one thing, not when your next raise comes in. Now, start living below your means today. Attack your debt aggressively starting with your next paycheck. Enroll in your 401k immediately and get the employer match. Send your next windfall into investments instead of spending it. Buy a sensible car or keep the one you already have instead of upgrading. These decisions are not glamorous. They will not get you likes on social media. Your friends may think you are cheap or boring, but in 10 years you will be financially free while they are still grinding, and they will wonder how you did it. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people in their 20s will hear this and change absolutely nothing. They will keep spending every dollar they earn. They will keep making minimum payments on debt. They will keep delaying retirement contributions. They will keep upgrading their cars and their apartments, and by 30, they will be broke despite making decent money, wondering why money feels so hard. But if you are one of the rare people who actually takes this seriously, who makes these 5 decisions differently from everyone around you, your life at 30 will look completely different from your peers. Not just your bank account, but your stress, your options, your freedom, and your whole relationship with money and work. The window is closing. Every day you are in your 20s is a day you will never get back for wealth building. The compound growth you miss now is gone forever. You cannot buy it back later with bigger contributions. Time is the most valuable asset you have, and you are spending it right now, whether you use it wisely or waste it. Rich or broke at 30 with the same paycheck comes down to 5 decisions. You are making those decisions right now today with every dollar you spend or save. Choose carefully, because you only get one shot at your 20s, and the consequences of how you spend them will follow you for the rest of your life. you for the rest of your life.